Brother, I've had enough of this guy. Are you kidding me? Mitch Marner's representation is going out there and talking smack about the Toronto Maple Leafs again? Ay, ay, ay. When is this story going to die down? Mitch Marner is an NHL superstar, making $12 million a year, recently converted to a center in the Vegas Golden Knights system, posted up 80 points in 81 games in the regular season, but also had 29 points in 22 games in the playoffs. All that talk about Mitch Marner not being a playoff performer came to bite Maple Leafs fans in the behind as the Golden Knights lost to Carolina in this year's Stanley Cup Finals matchup. Talk about that, eh? Marner doesn't spend a second outside the second and third rounds during his time in Toronto. But first season of Vegas, makes the finals, loses the finals, and we all know the Vegas Golden Knights are going to be back in the thick of it with a vengeance, trying to continuously make history as Stanley Cup contenders year in and year out. But today we're talking about a clip that was posted by the Puckpedia Hockey Show. Yeah, that's right. Daily Faceoff has their own show. So does Puckpedia. Here's a comment made by Mitch Marner's agent Darren Ferris. He was never protected by the Toronto Maple Leafs. Darren Ferris, on Marner's tenure with Toronto, starting all the way with no performance bonuses in his early contract to how he became the playoff scapegoat. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to go out there and watch this 2-minute video, but Darren Ferris is on there. He talks about the misinformation, how Mitch Marner didn't miss a day of training camp, and just how the Toronto Maple Leafs organization mistreated his number one prized client. Apologies if this information is already out there, but it's news to me how negotiations work with Toronto during his time there, and I thought I'd share. Obviously, this is one-sided commentary. Take a look at some of the replies over here that criticize Mitch Marner and his representation. Sure feels like Marner's camp is the one instigating this never-ending beef with Toronto. It's legitimately weird behavior. You left. You wanted to leave for 2 years. You handicapped the team. You choked at every possible juncture. Why are we still hearing about it? My favorite part was in the Stanley Cup Finals when everybody said Toronto was the problem and he wasn't really a choker. Until the games that mattered and he choked. Again. Now, let's just go out there and collect our facts. Mitch Marner, over a point per game in the Stanley Cup Playoffs. Yes, 29 points in 22 games. How many points did he have against Carolina? Well, okay, so he had an assist in Game 1, 2 assists in Game 2, a hat trick and another assist in Game 3, and then 1 assist in Game 4, that's it. So if you add it all together, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 points in the 6 games against Carolina, carried by 1 4-point game, which was the last game that Vegas won in the entire Stanley Cup playoff run that they had. 5-3 loss in Game number 4, 4-2 loss in Game 5, 3-0 shutout loss in Game 6. Marner didn't do much in the latter few games, but he did have a really good start. You know, I'm not going to dismiss the idea that he choked in that one. I'm not. I'm not going to dismiss the idea that Vegas choked as a whole in those final games over there. So, to see these old patterns emerging in the final few moments of the 2026 Stanley Cup playoffs, obviously that tickles the fancy of many Toronto Maple Leafs fans, because he is a whiny little bee whose parents didn't show him enough love or something. Every time I see Marner's name on my feed, he's whining about those Leaf fan meanies. I won't deny that playing in Toronto isn't for everyone. There's probably more pressure on the players here than anywhere else because of the massive fan base, media, and history. So I don't begrudge him for leaving, as he clearly is too weak mentally to handle the pressure. However, the way in which he left, making sure we couldn't get stuff for losing him, yeah, that wasn't cool. For that reason, I say Leafs fans are justified in moving on and trying to forget about him, yet he keeps whining, never-ending woe is me. Give it a rest, kid. Live your life. Move on. Well, people do keep engaging with it, but what do they have to gain from it? Yeah, podcasts and media types are going to be all about whatever generates clicks, but Marner and co. just look like massive crybabies. You know, it's interesting to note that that narrative does not seem to be going away. Like, throughout Marner's entire time in Toronto, there was always this idea that, hey, it's Marner, but then it's also Marner's camp. It's Marner's family. It's Marner's agency. It's the people that Marner surrounds himself with that publicly face a lot of this scrutiny as well because they deserve it. Because the people that influence the way Marner handles himself, they allow this guy to just act like a total doofus sometimes, to say the worst things in the media and to make all the surrounding narratives worse than they need to be. Marner could have taken the high road throughout many of these Toronto Maple Leafs controversies over the years, but instead of doing that, he would consistently double down, blame the media, blame the fans, say that it wasn't his fault and that he's focusing on what he can control. No accountability there. And then, the way he left, handcuffing the Toronto Maple Leafs to only allow him to go to Vegas, and he got what he wanted. He got the contract, he got a team that's able to compete in the Stanley Cup Finals, and now his agent's going out there on the podcast like, yeah, Toronto mistreated my guy. It's all their fault. They made him the scapegoat in the playoffs. They didn't give him bonuses on his entry-level contract, and that's all their fault. It's the Toronto Maple Leafs who mistreated my guy, Mitch Marner. Coming from a non-Leafs fans, Darren Ferris seems insufferable. That's because he is. Paul Marner is even worse. Here's another comment. Mitch has made $86 million in his career so far, and he has just finished year one of an 8x12 deal. After endorsements, and if he plays into the back part of his 30s, it'll be closer to $250 million total. And he is still sending his agent out to talk about how Lou Lamoriello ripped him off on the $1.5 million Schedule B bonus in 2021. I'm all for players getting paid what they're worth, but at some point, hearing players and their agents constantly whine about discounts and taxes when they're making hundreds of millions is just so insufferable. Gosh, man. Mitch Marner was a hero in Toronto, wasn't he? For a while, and then the playoffs happened, but just seeing how everything has gone down lately, it is quite the intriguing conversation. Hi, someone needs to make an edit of that South Park episode where Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are running around shouting in people's faces how they want their privacy and to be left alone, but switch them out for the people in Marner's camp. Everyone seems to have moved past the Marner and Toronto situation except the people surrounding Mitch Marner. I've never seen a player in the Stanley Cup Finals still talking about his old team. Oh yeah, dark times, right? Oh, there were dark times in my career in the past. I'll tell you more about it if we win the Stanley Cup. Like, buddy, what are you doing? You got your wish. You're now on the new team. And you're in the Stanley Cup Finals. What's the point of talking about the gosh darn Toronto Maple Leafs? They were bad enough that they got first overall. They're rebuilding. Austin Matthews is your buddy. Why are you going out there and burning those bridges? The Toronto Maple Leafs are never going to hear the end of Mitch Marner and the way that he left the organization, and it's going to be because Marner and his people are never going to let that go. Whether you like it or not, this is going to be a narrative over the next few years, and we will never hear the end of it, won't we? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Marner and his agency talking about how the Maple Leafs mistreated him. Do you agree? Disagree? Why or why not? Let me know in the comments section. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on. And bye.